My wife's secret life was revealed on Christmas morning when a woman knocked on our door with two kids saying, "Merry Christmas, Daddy." My wife went pale. I said, "I'm not their father." The woman replied, "I know SHE is." When I realized my wife was a male before I got to know her, I froze for a moment, completely paralyzed, and my mind went blank while the two kids stared up at me with this mix of excitement and confusion, their little hands clutching presents meant for a father who wasn't standing there. My wife, Madison, she's been calm for 4 years, intelligent, confident, suddenly looked like someone else entirely, like the ground had been ripped out from under her. I think you have the wrong house," I stammered, but the woman just smiled in that almost cruel, knowing way. "No, we don't. These are your wife's children. Where is she?" The words hit me like a punch. My brain started scrambling. Try to reconcile the Madison I knew. The woman who laughed at me over cheap wine on our first date, who held my hand through family gatherings, who whispered, "I love you" in the middle of my terrible jokes, against a stranger who apparently had an entire secret life before I even met her. "What? No, you're mistaken. My wife she can't have kids," I said slowly, disbelief thick in my voice. The woman pushed past me, and suddenly I was seeing Madison in a way I'd never imagined, face drained of color, gripping the wall, wide-eyed. "Jordan, come here. Your kids want to see you," the woman said, and I caught the hitch in Madison's breath. That wasn't her name. It wasn't ever her name. She opened her mouth, tried to speak, but nothing came out except this low, shaky sound that sounded almost like surrender. The little girl ran toward her, but stopped mid-step, confused. "You look different." And the boy, silent until then, gave me this look that seared into my chest, a mix of hope and hurt, because he was searching for a parent and finding none. And in that instant, I understood Madison wasn't just hiding a past. She had hidden an entire existence, children, a life I never knew. My voice caught when I said, "Explain." One word. That's all I need. She started shaking, tears spilling down, words fumbling out in fragments. I was going to tell you. I didn't want you to know. I thought it would be easier." The woman snorted, a sound that dripped contempt. "Easier? After 5 years of hiding, of disappearing, of letting me struggle alone while you reinvented yourself." My chest tightened. My mom came out of the living room, confused, my dad behind her, coffee in hand, my sister holding her phone ready to record what she thought were carolers. But no one was prepared for this. The kids, their little voices trembling, "Mommy?" They didn't understand why she had vanished, why she had left them, why she had allowed this lie to fester for years. I couldn't even look at Madison. I wanted to hit something. I wanted to cry. I wanted to vanish. Instead, I found myself speaking slowly, deliberately. "You need to leave. Pack your things. Tonight." The tears, the pleas, the frantic explanations, all blurred into a storm I didn't want to navigate. My mom, gentle as ever, led the kids to the kitchen, offering hot chocolate, trying to shield them from the chaos, while the woman who had delivered the bombshell spat out facts about child support custody, the 5 years of abandonment that I hadn't even begun to process. 5 years of missing birthdays, missed school plays, missed milestones. My stomach churned. My entire world shifted. Madison's identity wasn't the issue. Her being trans wasn't the issue. What destroyed me was the deception, the abandonment, the children who had been waiting, hoping, believing that their parent cared enough to show up, and she hadn't. When I finally had a quiet moment, alone in my childhood bedroom that night, whiskey in hand, I stared at the ceiling and tried to breathe, tried to reconcile the Madison I loved, the life we had built, with the Madison who had literally left 2 children in limbo to start over. My thoughts spiraled. Lawyers, custody, child support, divorce, annulment, fraud, every legal word a cold, sharp echo of the emotional wreckage that had descended on my family that Christmas morning. The next few days were a blur of calls, texts, visits from police, and constant interruptions from Madison's so-called best friend, who showed up screaming about discrimination, about trans rights, about how I was abandoning her. I kept repeating in my mind, this isn't about her identity. This is about children, about responsibility, about lives. The legal battle began quickly. Her lawyer tried to argue that the children, being from her previous life, weren't relevant to support obligations. My lawyer laughed, literally laughed. He said, "You have a gold mine here. Fraud, concealment, abandonment. It's all on the record." Meanwhile, Madison escalated in ways I didn't think humanly possible. She organized protests outside my home, called local news, cried on camera, portrayed herself as the victim of persecution. The contrast between her carefully curated social media posts and reality. Children abandoned, years of unpaid support, life built on lies, was stark. People argued online, social media exploded. Some call me a bigot. I try to focus on what mattered. The kids, their well-being, their sense of stability, their chance to see the truth acknowledged and justice applied. Slowly, the ex-mother, who had raised the children while Madison disappeared, began coordinating with me. Together, we began building some semblance of trust, of family, around these kids. It wasn't conventional. It wasn't perfect. But the kids were laughing again. They were drawing, playing, asking questions, learning that adults could keep promises, could show up. Meanwhile, Madison's attempt to control and manipulation fell apart. GoFundMe campaigns, legal threats, outrageous lawsuits, even trying to sue her own kids. Her financial deceit became public. Criminal investigations began. Court cases, annulment proceedings, subpoenas. Her second girlfriend discovered the truth about Madison's double life. Everything came crashing down, and yet, amidst the chaos, I found a strange sense of calm. The truth was out. Justice, in whatever form it could take, was unfolding, and the children, finally, were the focus. I began to see them 3 times a week. We took it slow. I wasn't a replacement. I wasn't trying to be their parent. I was someone who would show up when the adult who should have been there hadn't. Slowly, they began to smile. Slowly, they began to trust again. And Madison? She disappeared, deleted accounts, fled from responsibility. Her family reached out to the kids, setting up trust funds, trying to repair what she had abandoned. And me? I'm in therapy, processing the betrayal, the deception, the fact that the person I thought I knew could vanish from multiple lives without remorse. But when the kids laugh at my dad's terrible jokes, when they show me their art, when they excitedly teach me their games, I see hope. Not because of Madison, not because of what was lost, but because of what is being rebuilt. A family not by blood, but by choice. And when the children asked if they could call me uncle, I said yes, and it felt right. It was a messy, painful, and unexpected ending. But maybe, just maybe, it's the one that was needed. After the initial storm, life didn't magically return to normal. The kids, Ella and Mason, still looked at me with this cautious hope that felt like walking on glass. I couldn't tell them everything, couldn't dump the legal jargon or the emotional history on their shoulders, but I could be there, and that mattered. I learned to cook breakfast with little helpers who spilled more syrup than they poured, who giggled when I tried flipping pancakes and failed spectacularly. I learned that bedtime stories weren't just for kids. They were lessons in patience, humor, and improvisation, because Ella loved adding her own endings, and Mason would argue for a plot twist that made no sense. And through all of this, the specter of Madison hung over every room, every quiet moment. Emails would arrive, threats laced with bitterness, begging, accusations, and sometimes confusion. She alternated between claiming victimhood and asserting dominance, always trying to rewrite the past she had destroyed. At first, I responded. Then I stopped. I realized that her attempts to control were predictable, exhausting, and ultimately powerless against a reality that had been set into motion. Her children, my nieces and nephews in a sense, were the living, breathing evidence of her deception, and they needed consistency more than confrontation. My parents, initially aghast at the revelations, became pillars. My mom, fierce and tender all at once, would take the kids on museum trips or to the park, returning exhausted but happy. My dad, gruff but gentle, showed them how to build model airplanes, his patience unwavering even when Mason's insistence that the wings should flap didn't align with physics. Slowly, the house started to feel alive again, but a new reality had settled in. I wasn't married anymore, And I wasn't just a friend or a boyfriend. I was a guardian of stability, a figure in lives that had been left untended for years. Work suffered because every day involved juggling schedules, court calls, counseling appointments, school meetings. But the reward, the laughter, the small moments of trust, the whispered thank you from Ella after a bedtime story, made the chaos worth it. Madison resurfaced once, more like a shadow than a person. I received a court notice with her signature, demanding visitation rights she had never sought while she was present in their lives, or demanding apologies for supposed defamation online. My lawyer laughed again. "This is theater," he said. "Don't engage. Let her perform while you focus on the kids." And so I did. The children, completely unaware of the legal tangle, continued to teach me lessons I hadn't expected. Mason taught me patience in arguing over Lego instructions. Ella taught me joy in the midst of stress, insisting that we decorate cookies with a ridiculous amount of icing because life was too short to be neat. One night, while putting Mason to bed, he whispered, "Will she come back?" I swallowed a lump in my throat. "I don't know, buddy, but whoever does come back has to play fair, okay? No hiding, no secrets. Just honesty." He nodded, eyes wide, trusting the word of someone he had known 5 months ago. And honesty, it became my mantra. Every interaction, every decision, filtered through the lens of protecting these kids from betrayal, from chaos, from the type of abandonment that had scarred them before I stepped in. And then came the Christmas after the reveal, my first normal Christmas in 4 years. We had a tiny tree, decorations bought over time, hand-me-down lights that worked just enough. The kids wrote cards to family members I hadn't known they remembered, and we baked cookies that ended up half-burnt but perfectly sweet. I caught myself laughing more than I had in months, genuinely, because in spite of everything, life was moving forward. Madison, predictably, tried one last time. She sent a video claiming the children wanted to see her, her voice thick with emotion that I didn't recognize. Tears she hadn't shed for years when she was truly responsible. I didn't respond. I filed away and to let the courts handle it folder in my mind, and I focused on the living, breathing family in front of me. Ella hugged me tightly that night, whispering, "You're my favorite." Mason followed suit, wrestling me to ground in a game that ended with flour everywhere and sticky fingers. And I realized something fundamental. Family wasn't about bloodlines. Not really. It was about presence, about showing up when it mattered most, about being honest, about protecting the ones who could only rely on you. Weeks turned into months, and with every passing day, the shadow of Madison receded. There were occasional media mentions, online debates, but they were background noise compared to the life being rebuilt in my living room, on the kitchen floor, in the tiny shared bedroom where the kids slept with my dog curled up at their feet. I found peace in routines. School drop-offs, homework, weekend trips to the lake, Saturday morning cartoons. They became rituals that grounded us, that proved life could exist after betrayal. And through it all, I kept a journal, writing letters to the kids about honesty, resilience, and trust, storing them for the day when they could read and understand how far we'd come. One night, after tucking them in, I sat alone on the porch with the cold wind biting at my face, sipping whiskey, thinking about the woman I had married, the lies she had woven, and the resilience of the children she had abandoned. I didn't hate her anymore, not entirely, but I had no illusions about who she was, about what she had done. Acceptance, I realized, was not forgiveness. Acceptance was understanding that some people could not change, and that I had to focus on what could. And what could was these kids, this family we were slowly building from fragments. Time went on. Therapists, counselors, social workers. They all became part of our extended family, guiding us through trauma, trust, and the slow path toward stability. Ella started drawing pictures of our new family, and Mason built elaborate Lego houses, each structure taller than the last, reflecting growth, ambition, imagination. And I, slowly but surely, found myself laughing without fear, loving without reservation, present without expectation. The court battles faded, Madison faded, the world faded, leaving only what mattered. One rainy afternoon, Mason asked if we could build a fort in the living room. Ella insisted it needed a kitchen and a sleeping loft. We spent hours constructing, laughing, slipping in puddles of spilled juice and glitter. And as I watched them, their faces bright, hearts open, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be, doing exactly what mattered most. Showing up when no one else did, giving love that had been denied, and creating a family that, in spite of everything, would endure. Life was messy, imperfect, chaotic, but real. And for the first time since that Christmas morning, I felt like I could breathe again. We were surviving, yes, but more importantly, we were thriving, and no amount of past betrayal could take that away.